Beyond the Behavior: Why Emotional Awareness is the Real Work in Therapy by Adam Terpstra. In therapy, we often begin by identifying what is not working, such as patterns of behavior that cause stress, conflict, or disconnection, which is an important first step. However, the deeper healing work happens when we look beneath those behaviors and start to understand what is driving them, especially the emotional and relational impact they carry. Think of a behavior like a fire alarm going off. It gets our attention. Maybe it is snapping at a partner, shutting down during conflict, or avoiding hard conversations. Focusing only on the alarm does not put out the fire. For meaningful change, we must find the source. What emotional heat is fueling the reaction? From what I did to what I felt. Here is an example. A client might say, "I got really sarcastic in a meeting and made my colleague feel stupid. I know it was wrong." Naming the behavior is useful. It shows insight and accountability. But if we stop there, we miss the opportunity to ask, what was happening inside you just before that? Maybe the sarcasm came from feeling unseen or dismissed. Emotions like hurt, insecurity, or shame that did not have another way to come out. Once we know that, we can begin to work with the underlying vulnerability, not just the surface reaction. This is the real work of therapy, turning inward, not just to manage behavior, but to notice and name the emotional experience behind it. What is emotional activation? Emotional activation is what happens inside us, physiologically and emotionally, when we feel hurt, rejected, threatened, or unsafe. You might feel your heart race, your jaw tighten, or a wave of shame or anxiety. These reactions often happen before we even realize what we are feeling. If we have grown up in environments where emotions were not welcomed, named, or regulated, this kind of inner awareness may not come naturally. That is okay. Therapy is a space where we slowly learn to tune into these signals and respond with care instead of reactivity. The iceberg metaphor. Imagine an iceberg floating in the ocean. What is visible above the surface is the behavior, what people see or what we get in trouble for. But below the waterline is where most of the iceberg lies. That is the emotional activation: fear, guilt, loneliness, longing, sadness. These deeper feelings often come from early relational experiences, attachment patterns, or unresolved pain. Unless we understand the full iceberg, we risk only chipping away at the tip, wondering why nothing really changes. Real-life example: a shift toward connection. One client, after months of exploring their patterns, noticed how their anger always showed up right after they felt dismissed. Instead of snapping or withdrawing, they practiced saying, "I'm feeling shut out right now." The shift was small, but it opened a space for connection instead of conflict. Over time, that small act of naming an emotion led to big changes in how they related to others. The relational ripple effect. When we become more aware of our emotional patterns, we also start to see how they impact our relationships. Take the earlier example of sarcasm in a meeting. The emotional experience might stem from a history of not feeling respected. And while the comment might have been brief, it can erode trust or safety for others. Therapy invites us to see ripples and ask, what do I want people to feel when they're around me? This helps clients move from reactive to intentional, building more secure and responsive connections with others. Try this: a reflection exercise. Think about a recent moment where you reacted in a way you later regretted. What did you do or say? What impact might that reaction have had on someone else? What were you feeling just before the reaction? Where else in your life have you felt that way? Take a few minutes to write your responses down. Even just this kind of mindful reflection can begin to interrupt automatic patterns and create room for new responses. A gentle reminder. This takes practice. For many people, identifying emotions does not come easily. If you have spent years needing to keep it together, or if you have been in environments where emotional expression was unsafe or discouraged, this work can feel foreign or even frightening. That is normal. Therapy helps build this capacity slowly, gently, and with support. You do not need to get it right all the time. You just need to be willing to start noticing what is happening inside. Bringing it all together. To sum up, naming helpful behaviors is a strong beginning, but true transformation happens when we identify the emotional state underneath the behavior, understand where that emotional response comes from, and explore how it affects the people we are in relationship with. Healing is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming more aware, more connected to ourselves, and more mindful of our impact. The next time you notice behavior you don't feel good about, try pausing to ask, what might I be feeling underneath this? That question can become a doorway to healing, not just a mirror of what went wrong.